Welcome to another edition of We Need to Talk About Movies. Brought to you by banterflix.com. And now, here's your host, Jim McLean.
Hello, I'm Jim McLean. Welcome to a very special edition of the Banter Syndicast as we come over all romantic for the BFI's love season. Once again, we're recording at the Belfast Film Festival's Beanbag Cinema in front of a live audience, and we'll be chatting all things rom-com related for the next 45 minutes or so, before our screening tonight of Annie Hall. Joining me this evening is Neil Sedgewick from Film and Faith.
Evening.
Filmgoers Richard Davis.
Hi.
And as already said, for the first time ever, Sarah Firby.
Hello.
Right, I'm going to start off. Neil, Richard, Sarah, are you fans of the rom-com in general? Neil?
Yeah, why not? Well, within good reason. But, yeah, you need something to have date night, at least.
At least one.
Yeah, at least one. You need a good rom-com, a good date night. We takeaway, we DVD rom-com. Nothing wrong with that.
Sarah?
You see, I'm the opposite. You need something when you don't have a date night, you know, and you're at home, sad. But no, I think I'm probably the most dedicated devotee of the rom-com here tonight, I think, probably.
Okay. Possibly.
I think just from sheer volume of them I've seen. I've seen probably all the bad ones.
Okay.
And most of the good ones.
But you have to go through the bad ones to enjoy the good ones. What about you, Richard?
Yeah. When it's done right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Basically, my thoughts on this is that the rom-com was once the mainstay of the multiplex. But nowadays, we get, as you mentioned, we have the leaning phase with Matthew McConaughey. We don't have the great rom-coms that they used to be. Everything now romantic seems to be either kinky or it's been hijacked, in my opinion, by Nicholas Sparks. I don't know whether that's the case. But over the years, the rom-com undoubtedly has been a launching pad for a lot of actors. For some, they've maybe been carriers rather than launching. But this is my thought anyway. A well-done rom-com reminds us what it's like to be human. I know that's a bit over the top. But at the end of the day, everybody can enjoy romance. Everybody can enjoy comedy. But not everybody can be Iron Man. Not everybody can Captain America. But anyone here can fall in love. That's my soppy thoughts. I'm going to throw it out to the audience, and feel free to shout away. Is anyone here not particularly fans of rom-com? Anybody find it a tough sell? Far away.
I enjoy romantic comedy. There's been so many good ones over the years.
Okay.
But I've seen you on or some of your questions on Facebook.
And
I was querying like what has happened to the rom-com.
Mm-hmm.
I was just sitting thinking, is it because we've just come out of a recession and in times of austerity that really people aren't in the mood for sort of light-hearted romantic comedy sort of things? Films are a bit more serious, and does it wax and wane then, you know, with the economy?
It could well be. Like, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
It's just a point I thought it had, you know?
No, I think picking up on the economic thing that you were saying, I think that on the other hand, there's less people who have, you know, that money to go to the cinema every week now. And if you're not someone who can afford it, you're kind of waiting for a big, you know, an important film, the Oscar bait or something, and you're not necessarily going to go, you know, just for fun to see something that's lighthearted and possibly not as much substance to it, I think.
Well, it's going to be something I'm going to come back to, because, I mean, this is a point that Nora Ephron always made about When Harry Met Sally. Nowadays, films like that wouldn't get made now, because they're the product of big studios, and now they're more interested in sequels, as we kind of talked about there. Now, definitely at this moment in time, you've got franchise building, expanded universes, cinematic universes. It's not kind of the one shot. Richard, Neil, anything you want to throw in here?
Well done for starting on such a massive, in-depth, really thinking about the question there. I don't know, I think, like, after, like, World War II and the Great Depression, like, people wanted fantasy genres. They wanted, like, you had film noirs, but you also had, like, The Wizard of Oz and stuff. So people want escapism sometimes. I mean, I think the question is also about writers and stars. Like, who is just like made for a rom-com, like
Cary Grant.
the genre. Like, but now if you think about stars, and rom-com is kind of very like pigeonholed, I think, and actors don't like to be pigeonholed. Like, you think of Cary Grant back in the studio days, and like he was given those roles, and like he was studio property, and like for better or worse, and in a lot of cases for better. He was groomed for that, and they made the films like in that way. Like he was a romantic comedy star and starred in romantic comedies. Really?
Yeah. Neil, what about you?
Yeah, I think sometimes, to your point, I think we're in a phase of cinema that kind of ties in with the superhero thing, the franchises. Like, we've had this before where, back in the day it was westerns for a long period of time. You had a lot of western films produced. Then you had a lot of gangster films. Then a glut of sci-fi films. Late 90s, early 90s, it was constantly Matthew McConaughey leaning up against someone or some lettering somewhere on a poster. Hugh Grant, that type of thing. And that was really, and in some ways, their time. I don't know if that's really the right thing to say, but that was kind of the cinema going thing at that point. And I don't know about the economics of it, but I think studio's intention now is like just to get the big cash cow out, which is your superheroes and all that.
Yeah. Did rom-coms become lazy? Was it
I would think so.
oversaturated and like, one kind of star?
I would think so. I mean, it's something I'm going to work. I'll come back to, because it's coming back, because I don't want to delve into When Harry Met Sally. I want to talk. There is other rom-coms, believe it or not, other than Annie Hall and When Harry Met Sally. But that's one question. Anybody here, before we go on any further, anybody else want to talk particularly their thoughts on the rom-com genre? Oh, they're all so shy.
I mean, we all went to school in Northern Ireland. We know what it's like.
Yes, I know.
Any more questions?
But
anyone?
Well, what we'll do, because I want to talk, before we talk about specific films, I want to talk about the cliches and tropes. The ones that you love, the ones that annoy you. You've got the terms, I think you've got like the cute meet, the idea that it has to be the romantic couple when they first meet, it has to be adorable, entertaining, or quirky. I always think like the obvious one, of course, I think of is, of course, When Harry Met Sally and things like that, when they're meeting in the car for the first time and they hate each other, they have the discussions about men and women can't be friends. Anything else? Any on the cute meat side of things?
I just read about one, and I think this is from a film where it's just it's like a TV film studio, basically someone's pitching this idea for a meet cute, and it's like this man and woman who can't sleep, and they go to the same department store, and one of them wants the pajama bottoms and one of them wants the pajama top, and it's like, oh, we're made for each other all of a sudden. It's
I think this sounds like the story of your life.
Yeah, it's gonna happen tonight.
Yeah, it could well do. There's 24-hour shops open at this point. Neil, Sarah, what about yourselves?
Are we talking about meet cutes or things that we do and don't?
Yeah, well, we'll start because meet cute's the obvious one you always get with the rom-coms.
You see, I think that's another one of the things that's the sort of constructed element of it that's gone out of fashion now, is that it'll just be, they'll meet through friends, which to me, that kind of takes away a bit of it. When you think of something like, and sort of not meet cute, like You've Got Mail, where the whole, what it's based on, the shop around the corner, is that they don't meet, but they have met. That, whole kind of construct. I think talking about films getting lazy, there's not so much of that. And I like that, the theatrical element of it. Because at the end of it, it is fantasy. It is, escapism, and people meeting through work friends is just a bit too normal for me.
I mean, the best meet cute is Harold and Maude meeting at funerals. That's the best.
Who hasn't went there? But I mean, they are the
Owen Wilson. Yeah, they haven't the sequel there. Funeral Crashers.
With the cliches and tropes, there's loads. We always have the false start. It's all going so well, then something has to something goes wrong. You have the one that I'm a personal fan of, and I'm a huge sucker for, is the Grand Declaration of Love, which I love.
You really are.
I am what can I say? I am a completely soppy cat at the heart of times. I am the person who cried in Inside Out. That's not a rom-com, but I'm twice. I cried twice and had to be consoled by a 5-year-old with a tissue. But the less said than that, the better. keeping it with rom-coms, like, I mean, you've got this idea, like, the hero's goal. Like, I mean, he has to win the affection of somebody else. He has to, but also at the same time, he has to have goals beyond that. Like, I mean, we see he's trying to pursue his career. And this is where we're going to get one of the new cliches, I think. Well, it's not really new. It's been definitely dubbed the Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah.
Which I'm a huge... I have a huge soft spot for. I know Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind isn't necessarily a rom-com, but I mean, I do love Kate Winslet in that role. Manic Pixie Dream Girls.
Yeah.
Like, they've been around for a long time. Like, this has only been dubbed with Elizabethtown, but they have been around for a while. We've seen them, like, the obvious one I always think of is Breakfast at Tiffany's, Holly Golightly.
Explain what a manic pixie dream girl is, because you mentioned this to me and I went, okay, stop making up.
Have you never heard this term?
Well, Google told me, but you...
Yeah, Google told, yeah. Well, it's like, I always go with the Roger Ebert declaration of what it's someone who's completely available and absolutely desirable, and it's someone a woman, genuinely a woman, who will help our hero discover his inner meaning and find the happiness that he needs. Like, I mean, I've got written down here, Audrey Hepburn, Holly Golightly, and also another one is Katharine Hepburn in Bringing Up Baby. Those are kind of ones I think of older. Like, this is, as I said, was only coined in 2004 by Nathan Rabin, sorry. But I mean, they've been around for a long, long time. Manic Pixie Dream Girls.
You see, some of those you were listing, I think it says a lot about the way that we watch films, that we see that as, she leads the hero to this and that and whatever. Because to me, the true sort of Manic Pixie Dream Girl is one, and that's all she does. She doesn't have a backstory. She doesn't have a life of her own. I was reading something interesting. I don't know if anyone's seen Pitch Perfect. But as an example of the sort of male
that's one
equivalent would be the male character in that, whose name I can't remember, because we know nothing about him other than that he loves the Breakfast Club. That's it. He's cheerful and tries to cheer her. I think it's one of the only times where you see that same sort of two-dimensional, just comic, sort of the romantic object kind of thing. But in terms of, like you're saying, mentioning Bringing Up Baby or Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany's, I think they're too much of a full character of their own. I think it's too easy to sort of take any character that's a bit quirky or a bit, leads them off into mayhem as a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. I think probably one of the ones that immediately comes to mind for me is Natalie Portman's character in Garden State. Because but again, maybe I'm just deciding that because I hate that character, so I want to give her a terrible label.
I'm not a fan of the film. In general.
Yeah, that would be the one that stands out as kind of the apex, or the opposite of apex, the worst. Manic Pixie Dream Girl is kind of like a male fantasy, almost like Weird Science in a way. I
think it's almost a bit deceptive in a way. Those films, I think films like that, they're not romantic comedies because the relationship isn't at the center of it. It's it's almost more of a adult coming of age story kind of thing, and she happens to be there, sort of thing.
I felt like just watching other films leading up to this, Manic Pixie Dream Girl was kind of like a reaction, like an opposite of if you think of Sally in Harry Met Sally, and a lot of the female characters in these rom-coms are really serious and straight-laced. There's a lot of kind of those kind of stereotypes, and then this was kind of flipping that in a way, but it's gone way too far.
Oh yeah, I would agree. What about you, Neil?
But it's becoming part of the cliche of these things. Yeah. So it's now part of the gimmick of a rom-com is that we look for this character. So that in itself is a problem for me with the rom-com genre, that we're going, so we meet and then we fall out and then we reconcile, and in this point there will be a Manic Pixie Dream Girl, closed book. It just becomes formulaic when we do it. But the one I thought of was Zooey Deschanel. You think quirky, you think Zooey Deschanel, and 500 Days of Summer was the one.
Also Elf as well. I always think of her character in Elf as well as
just
another.
More of a manic depressive pixie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But throwing it open, and I'll throw it open to you guys, and I'll throw it up to the audience as well. Is there any other of those kind of characters, the running cliches that we see in rom-coms in general? One I always think of is the affable dork, the guy who's the straight-laced, he's got all the grades, and genuinely it's a Manic Pixie Dream Girl that leads him astray and finds him to open up the world. But any other cliches within the genres that anyone finds either annoying or anything that we haven't maybe talked on here?
One
Can
of
I-
the sorry.
Go, Sarah. Go.
One of the things because I was just thinking about this, getting the questions beforehand, and the more I thought about it, I think the one thing that annoys me the most is, and it's a really specific moment that comes up in more of the modern ones, is when one of the couple takes the person to their special place where they go to think.
Yeah.
That that seems to be a thing. And even it's such a cliche now that I don't know if anyone's seen Friends with Benefits. There's a film that sort of promises to tear down all these cliches, and then they still do them. She still has to have they have the crazy meeting, and they still do this is my favorite place
This
in New
implies,
York.
Sarah, that
because
you don't
there's
have a
no one
special
here.
place, though.
I don't know. I need to find some rooftop in Belfast that I can, gaze wistfully out at the city.
Yeah, find your inner peace.
The comic zany friend, be they male or female, is another cliche. Generally they're male. Well, maybe not. I'm trying to think of some. There's the girl in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days who works in the magazine with her, who becomes the therapist in one of the scenes. And like these kind of wacky friends that pop in and go, hey, and try to do the comedy bit while all the romance. So they get the comedy gig, and your McConaughey's and Hudson's get to do the romancy bit.
And the leaning.
And the leaning.
I'm
back to the leaning.
Ricky D?
I like the helpful, or as it turns out, really unhelpful, like couples that they have, like their friends that try and like arrange dates for them, or try and like solve their romantic problems. I don't usually get bored of those. They're usually more interesting than the main characters sometimes.
Yeah, like the other one I think is the uptight shrew. There's someone who come in and the actress that has completely cornered that market at the minute is Katherine Heigl. Like, I mean, she has, like, I think of her in The Ugly Truth and things like 27 Days. She's a guy, she's a girl, she's uptight completely, and she needs a wild and loose guy. Someone like Jared Butler in The Ugly Truth to cure all her ills by showing her the wild way of, the wild style of life. We'll move on and we'll talk about specific films. Now, as I said at the start of the show, we kind of mentioned that the heyday for the rom-com definitely is kind of like the late 70s, 80s, early 90s as well, but there were, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, there were rom-coms before then. There will be rom-coms still to come. But any pre-80s rom-coms that really stick out for you guys, Sarah?
I think possibly The Apartment is a great example. I think just because it's so basic, it's all about the relationship, and it's not typical in that they don't even like each other sort of the same amount for the whole film. It's not until the end, and it's sort of a settling.
The Apartment is a strange film because it's quite dark and it's quite seedy when you think about the actual idea of the apartment. You've got this guy who's trying to work his way up in the company, and he lets his bosses use his apartment to take their girlfriends there for the night. Like, it's pretty dark at times, and of course, spoilers if nobody's seen it, but you do have an attempted suicide in that film as well. But what I love about Billy Wilder stuff, I think it has aged. It hasn't aged in the way some of the other rom-coms, like Breakfast at Tiffany's, apart from Audrey Hepburn and all that type of stuff. There is some stuff in Breakfast at Tiffany's which has aged terribly. Like, I mean, it's just doesn't hold the test of time. We're not even going to go there. Like, it is slightly racist. But I mean, guys,
Mickey Rooney. That's
Mickey Rooney. That's the less said about Mickey Rooney, the better on that. But I mean, like, we're talking there, Billy Wilder in The Apartment. The one I always think of is The 7 Year Itch. Like, there's another possible manic pixie dream girl in Marilyn Monroe, like in that type of kind of quirky kind of character as well. But you guys?
Well, yeah, definitely second The Apartment. It's wonderful. Jack Lemmon just
one of the greatest actors.
Fantastic, and he kind of holds that all together. The Graduate, I really like. It is kind of really dark as well, and like the kind of if you think about the social repercussions of like the different relationships in the film, it like is a bit crazy, and it has that wonderful ending. I really like that.
Wonderfully copied by The Simpsons.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel like Vic and Bob.
Yeah.
As well. And Harold and Maude that I mentioned earlier. It's just a beautiful, lovely film. I mean, is it really romantic?
See, this
or
is
not?
This is the thing. Like, I had it on the list, and I kind of went,
yeah.
Is it? You see, I'm not.
To me, it's a coming of age story. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Harold and Maude.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it, but it's not a film like I would go. It's not like in some of the really good rom-coms, particularly When Harry Met Sally, I consider a cinematic chicken soup. It's a good pick me up film. It's you're having a crap day or anything like that, I'll just throw them on Harry Met Sally. I know they'll get together in the end. Even Annie Hall, we'll not talk about it too much, but I mean, it's another one of those films that does cheer me up as well. Neil, any other old ones?
Oh, the older ones kind of passed me by a wee bit. Marilyn Monroe, though, is never a bad thing.
Yeah,
I think that
you just being a red-blooded male now.
Just because if you are listening, there's screenshots going back. Marilyn,
you're getting distracted. Then
I got distracted by that Marilyn shot. But Breakfast at Tiffany's as well is a good. It's a wet afternoon wrapped in a blanket on TV movie.
Channel 5.
Yeah,
I like, as I say, there's parts of it that have aged terribly, but I absolutely love like Breakfast at Tiffany's. I love the party scene with Holly Golightly. I love the party when it's all kicking off, and I think there's like the girl she's lighting her head on fire, or she's got the cigarette.
There's a lot of crazy stuff.
There's a lot of craziness going on in that film, but I also love like the fact he's got a cat called Cat. And then I'm like, again, I'm a huge softie. The ending in the alleyway with the cat, like it's hard not to get caught up.
Don't tear up.
I might tear up right now.
Yeah.
But throwing out to the audience, like, I mean, any of the older rom-coms, any of you guys are particularly fans? Any of you don't really like? Any of you like Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Apartment, 7 Year Itch? Anyone really not like those films at all?
Everyone likes them.
Everyone likes them.
Yeah.
That's the way. Then we'll come to the heyday, late 1970s, 1980s.
Yeah.
Nora Ephron, Woody Allen. Rickety, I know you're going to be introducing Annie Hall, but I mean, we have the likes of Annie Hall. We see like Woody Allen is definitely someone who loves women, and he can write. Oh yeah, he can write for them really, really well. I think Nora Ephron, because of course she's a woman, she's slightly better at actually giving us real women on screen, particularly when Harry Met Sally. But like, I know you're a huge Woody Allen fan. That's why I asked you on the panel. Talk to us about Allen and the rom-coms without going too much into Annie Hall.
Okay. Well, I just think that he was one of the first people in cinema that did relationship films in a way. Like, it was all about the ups and downs and the joys of relationships. And like, you have Diane Keaton in Annie Hall, but you also have all these other wonderful women in Annie Hall. Like Carol Kane is just brilliant. And I watched, I wouldn't really call it a romantic comedy. I mean, Hannah and Her Sisters. Again, like, so many wonderful female characters. That's Diane Leon. I think I'm getting that right. Terrible memory. But like, Woody Allen talked about Annie Hall being like a kind of game changer for him because he'd just done comedies and farce up to then. And, you know, everyone thinks of Woody Allen as like a comedian, and, you know, he's always like voted amongst the top 10 comedians of all time and all this stuff. But like the romantic side, like, people kind of neglect in Annie Hall. And like, the film is just like a wonderful kind of it's like a love letter to their relationship. That's what it's like to me. And it shows you like their ups and downs, and it shows you like first meetings. I love first meetings in films. I mean, we kind of talked about that and how they meet, and just how like the how clever it is with like different film techniques. Like, you get the voiceover of what they're really thinking, like whatever 30 years before Peep Show. Woody Allen was doing that, and you have the wonderful like split screen stuff that they do where they're both in therapy, and like, in a way, it kind of is showing that perhaps men and women will never totally understand each other, because it shows what's going on in both of their heads. And like, some romantic films, like not particularly any of the ones we've mentioned, but like, I feel like are really unbalanced. And I know Woody Allen does the direct address in this, and it's a Woody Allen film, but it feels kind of balanced, and you kind of like Annie Hall as much as you like Woody Allen, and understand her as much as you understand like Alvy.
Yeah. But what about, like, Manhattan is another Woody Allen film.
Yeah.
I can have my fix of Manhattan in 5 minutes. The opening monologue, it's just for me, it's a definitive New York film. That is I can watch those 5 minutes and that I can be done with that film. I'm not a huge fan of Manhattan. I know Woody Allen is definitely not a huge fan of Manhattan. Sarah, Neil, we're opening out to you guys. Woody Allen, are you fans of Woody Allen and his work?
Yeah, I am. I think one of the things I really like about him is the normalness of it, if that makes sense. I think sometimes rom-coms get bogged down in really unrealistic, like, people, and, like, they have unrealistic jobs. You know, Matthew McConaughey is a leading lecturer at a no, he's not. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't scan right. But there's just a normalness, and even in the dialogue, there's normalness, like conversations that you would have yourself with your significant other. And I think that's what makes them relatable and so great. And the other thing I really like is the locations. There's a sense of romance about the locations. So New York, of course, Paris. I watched Vicky Cristina Barcelona. And it made me just want to go to Barcelona. Just, just a lovely...
You see, I know we're going into the later Woody Allen. Like, I mean, Woody Allen, for me, I think he's at his best in New York. That's my opinion. I mean, it's his home turf. Like, I mean, I know we talked previously about Blue Jasmine. Like, I mean, I didn't love Blue Jasmine and the way other people waxed lyrical about it. I thought Blue Jasmine worked best, again, when it was in New York. And it was the kind of the backstory to everything that was going on. I thought it kind of didn't work to the same level, and I wanted more Sally Hawkins' character, and that was my thoughts of Blue Jasmine. Apart from Midnight in Paris, it's the only kind of real Woody Allen European film that I would say I would happily have it in my DVD collection. I would happily sit back and watch it.
I just want to say a bit about Woody Allen. I think he's just a 1 in a million sort of guy. You know, for such a sort of a man who's so physically sort of small and that sort of nerd sort of look about him, he's a complete and utter creative powerhouse. Yeah. He has year after year after year just wrote films off the top of his head in his own apartment on that typewriter. You know, he directs, he writes, he produces. He's involved in every single level of it, and he's putting out, one film a year for most years. And, there's just no stopping him.
Yeah, and I'm excited about his TV project.
The most creative, geniuses of film.
Undoubtedly, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
It just flows from inside him. It's just pure and utter creativity. It's unstoppable. Year in, year out.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I have a huge respect for him, and I would sit, and I do make a habit of trying to see every Woody Allen film. It's an event.
Just a human being who's like that.
It's an event when it is an event when a Woody Allen film comes out. But I'll be honest, not every Woody Allen film I love, but I respect the fact that he is each year churning out, and some of them are quite similar. Like, I mean, he's kind of back now in the American phase again now.
At that age, just keep putting it out. The work level, the work commitment is just awesome.
Anybody else? Like, I mean, I know we're kind of jumping ahead. Like, I mean, anybody, like the European Woody Allens, the New York kind of stuff, the early 70s and 80s stuff. Anything else you want to talk about, Woody Allen?
I've really enjoyed some of these of the European ones. I think the reason that Annie Hall and Manhattan and Love and Death and loved so much is, I think, because it's when he's not, the films are no longer just a Woody Allen vehicle, and he's got a female lead just as talented as a comedy actor. But I think it's always those pairings where things just sort of line up. Woody Allen, Diane Keaton, Nora Ephron and Meg Ryan, Richard Gere and Julia Roberts working together. It's those kind of pairings. I think I kind of got my hopes up. I don't know if you saw Magic in the Moonlight, which is one of the recent ones. I kind of got my hopes up that maybe Emma Stone was going to sort of be, the new
muse.
Woody Allen muse.
Well, that's how he works.
I didn't actually see it. The Irrational Man, is it?
Rational Man,
you've seen it.
Yeah, but I think possibly as an older man, he's not engaging with that, being a young man romantic side of it, because it's just not what's personal to him anymore. But I think still it's, the relationships are central to it, and that's what makes, that's where comedy comes from. People are at their funniest when, making fools of themselves.
It is, the fact that he's now no longer in his films, but I mean, you can still see the quintessential Woody Allen character that you kind of think, well, if Woody Allen had been younger, he would have played that character. Like, I mean, there's the dentist stroke doctor in Blue Jasmine. You kind of go, that would have been Woody Allen if he was a couple of years younger. But I mean, opening out beyond Woody Allen in the 80s, like, I mean, I've got a list here. Before I even get into When Harry Met Sally, one of my favorites actually is John Landis's Coming to America. And I mean, the reason why I've got it down as a rom-com is the fact that it's kind of, it's one of those, it is an important film because you do have a mostly all black cast, and it's just, they are normal characters, and it's a normal rom-com, and I think it's mainstream audiences can completely relate to. It's not trying to be kind of like the Spike Lee approach. It's kind of almost Princess Bride. It's kind of like a bit of a fantasy to it, but that's my thoughts. The Princess Bride, as I've mentioned there. Rob Reiner, huge fan. When Harry Met Sally, obviously, but anything else, guys?
Well, just when we're on the subject, because I've got a couple of 80s ones, and I've been looking forward to this, because you also mentioned, like, the king of the rom-coms, or the queen of the rom-coms. So I'll just go to the 80s and talk about John Cusack. Yeah. Because Rob Reiner, just because you were mentioning that, I've got this Rob Reiner film called The Sure Thing that I wanted to talk about, just as like a really just nice, almost like teenage, just rom-com. And the reason why people forget about it is because, and this is where I needed my notes, it comes between this is Spinal Tap in 1984, and then The Sure Thing's in 1985, sandwiched in between Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery. So it kind of gets...
Misery's the weird one.
It kind of, well, it's also brilliant, but The Sure Thing kind of gets lost in the mix there. Yeah. And it's just a great little film about these two friends who go to college, Anthony Edwards and John Cusack, and Anthony Edwards wants to fix his friend John Cusack up with this girl, The Sure Thing, in California. So it's all about this road trip from like an East Coast like college to California. And he goes in this road trip with this girl from his English class who they really don't get along. And of course, you know, they start to get along and maybe not, but it's up and down throughout the whole road trip. It's got great, like, just lines like, how would you like to have a sexual encounter so intense it could conceivably change your political views?
That sounds like something you
John
use.
Cusack.
That sounds like something you have.
It worked for John Cusack. It actually doesn't work for him in this film.
You're mentioning Say Anything. Say Anything's a really good rom-com because it's strange. It's a different type of film because here you have the guy basically at the end of the film. Like you have the speaker up top the heads, the boombox. Because I've seen you in fancy dresses. Yeah. But it's an important film because there you've got it's Cameron Crowe. No.
Yeah, it's Cameron Crowe.
It's Cameron Crowe with Say Anything, and there you get the male character saying to the girlfriend, the female character, my job is to follow you, support you, and do wherever you want to go is where you're going to go.
Well, it's interesting, like, John Cusack in The Sure Thing, and then again in Say Anything, like, the girls are kind of, like, very academic and smart and brainy and straight-laced, and he's, like, a bit all over the place, but also, in a way, he's the drive for romance. Like, he's the romantic one, he's the soppy one. Like, Say Anything has that great line where it's like, I gave her my heart and she gave me a pen. Yeah. You know, it is a bit soppy like that, but it's John Cusack. He can pull it off.
He can. Neil, Sarah, what about you? 80s rom-coms. Any other rom-coms?
There's none springing to mind instantly. I think this is possibly just from what I've been brought up with. Okay. My sort of peak rom-com viewing time, coincided with the McConaughey mess.
There's a lot of McConaughey.
But I think if we're going to talk about John Cusack, I feel like we should give a mention to Joan Cusack as well. Oh yeah, as the ultimate sassy best friend. I just feel like she's really putting the work.
Yeah, working girl, and in Say Anything, he lives with her in that. Like she's kind of in the background in that. Yeah, she is pretty awesome.
Yeah, because, well, there's one we haven't even talked about. Like, what you think of Working Girl as well. It's a film I haven't seen in a long, long time. My mother loves it, and Pretty Woman are two films I was practically reared on. I mean, I could near enough take you through scene by scene. But I mean, it's a strange one because there you get women and women are again the characters of power. You've got Sigourney Weaver, you've got Meg Ryan, not Meg Ryan. Her name's not written in my head. We'll move on.
Mrs. Antonio Banderas.
Yes, indeed.
Melanie Griffith.
That's the
Thank
one.
you.
A pocket of love hearts, that
yeah.
man. But no, like Working Girl again, it's strange because you don't see those type of characters. Like, I mean, those type of films anymore. Like, I mean, the likes of work, like it's all like the size zero, the kind of sexy thing. Like, I just remember the scene with Melanie Griffith in the lingerie, and I mean, you're just like, that would not be deemed sexy anymore. Like, I mean, it's changing times. I know.
Speaking of sexy in that film, Alec Baldwin's chest. Just people go and look that up. You thought the man had a charismatic voice? No.
Neil, what about you?
80s. Well, if we're squeezing Comedy American, which I'm not convinced on, can I then?
Are you not a fan of Coming to America?
No. I am a fan, but I don't know if it falls into a rom-com thing.
Well, it is. It's love.
It's more of a.
Look at him appealing to the
audience. You say
audience.
Comedy America to me, and I think of the Eddie Murphys in the barbershop bit. That's all I hear. That's all I see. That's the bit that just sticks out a mile to me, not the romance end of it. And I know that's there. I know that's a thing. But if we're having that, then can we squeeze in Three Men and a Baby?
No.
Does that go in?
Don't get me wrong. I'm possibly the biggest Three Men and a Baby fan in the world. Ask anyone. But it's just, I just think the relationship has to be the central plot line of the whole film. But I think that does have similar elements, though. That it's it's trying to do something interesting with gender roles. But.
Yeah, well, like I know this is like the BFI love season in general. Like, I mean, it is a film clearly with love at its heart. There's a lot of, like, again, talking about films that haven't maybe aged well. Like, I watched Three Men and a Little Baby not so long ago, and there's sometimes you just kind of, some of the stuff you kind of cringe, some of the outfits, and like you've got the whole, the Steve Guttenberg.
Three Men and a Little Lady, maybe, but Three Men and a Baby, no, it's a classic. Leave it alone. I
just think that says more about you, Neil, than anything else. But I mean, well, I think we've kind of dodged about it enough. Like, I mean, we've got When Harry Met Sally. Why do you think it's, like, I know Annie Hall was recently voted the funniest screenplay of all time. But I mean, why do you think When Harry Met Sally has that enduring appeal? Why do you think it's kind of seen by a lot of people as that kind of new reference point zero, set the blueprint for rom-coms that they're judged on going forward?
I think it just does love interest in original things. Like the story skips forward 5 years at a time. Yeah. You have the little interviews with like older couples, but also I think just the dialogue. And I love in this film and in Sleepless in Seattle that like their romantic, like their discussions just about romance are like inflected by their love of movies. Yeah. So like Casablanca in When Harry Met Sally and
Brief Encounter.
The End of the Affair, I think it is, in Sleepless in Seattle. So I just love those bits, and they're really engaging conversations, and they're really like back and forth, like they're kind of equals in a way. I mean, they're different characters, and a lot of the time, just you have Billy Crystal just not accepting he's wrong at any point. But I think it's just kind of a lovely movie, and it's got like Neil was talking about Woody Allen's films, like just beautiful scenes of New York, like walking through Central Park and different things. And I
always think the scene where they're walking through, it's autumn, and they're talking about she's talking about her reoccurring sex dream, and it's been the same since she's been 14. Yeah, and like the only thing that's changed is her outfit. But I think importantly for me, and I'm going to open up to you guys and the audience if you want to interject as well. Like, I think the important thing about When Harry Met Sally is the fact that everybody there has a purpose. Everybody, like, whether it's the main characters or whether it's the supporting cast, like people like Carrie Fisher, they have their own lives going on. Like, I mean, Carrie Fisher, she's having an affair with a married man. It's like, he's going to leave. I know he's never going to leave. And she's still, I think there's like between 5 years, one of the sequences, like she's still having the affair with him. And you've got Billy Crystal's friend. And again, they kind of end up getting together again. Spoiler. But, it's nicely timed when Harry and Sally behind us. But that's what I love about it, is the fact that everybody in that film has a purpose. It's not just what rom-coms have been, going to set piece to set piece. It gives dialogue. There's cine literacy there. I don't think Nora Ephron is perfect. Like, I mean, this is the person that gave us the Bewitched, the Bewitched movie with Will Ferrell. Like, I mean, that is a turkey of a rom-com effort. There was one, but I think it's maybe a lot of credit, I think, has to go to Rob Reiner. Nora Ephron gets a lot of credit for When Harry Met Sally for the screenplay, but I think you have to give credit to Rob Reiner. Well, the man did direct one of my favourite films of all time, The Princess Bride, which is just every single level of love ever in screen is on display within The Princess Bride. Sarah, Neil, When Harry Met Sally?
I think the thing about Nora Ephron is, I think what sets her apart, and possibly, you know, that you said starts off sort of a new phase, is that she's not a comedian. She's a writer, writing relationships. It's not, you know, I need to give these witty, you know, one-liners to someone. It might as well be the man because he's the most similar to me, kind of thing. I think also, like you mentioned about with When Harry Met Sally, it's an ensemble, almost, but I think it's sort of it's taken to extremes in things like Love Actually, or one of my favorites. I'm not sure if I should say that, but He's Just Not That Into You. Okay. Because you see, you know, everyone giving each other their advice, and you know, it's the wise friend telling them what they should do, and then you see that they're just as much of a mess in their own love life. I think it's films like you said that are about adults, and I think possibly around Nora Ephron's time is the first time you're getting films that are about people where it's quite normal that they've, you know, possibly been married once or twice before. Yeah. They've, you know, every character in it has a past. Someone who's, you know, habitually goes out with married men, things like that. No one's sort of, you know, new to it. I think it just adds sort of more complexities to it.
And you do have, like, talk about, I didn't want to mention earlier on, like, I know I mentioned the cute meet. You've got, like, the kind of second kind of cute, meet cute in When Harry Met Sally in the bookstore, where they've both, she's broken up with her boyfriend, and he's just in the process of getting divorced, and they kind of like, okay, we're going to, they have the decision where we're going to be friends now and move on. But I mean, a lot of people always talk about When Harry Met Sally, it's the core idea is men and women can't be friends without having sex. But I think what Nora Ephron makes the point is the fact that it's more so a film about how the two genders don't really know each other. Like, I mean, women don't really understand men, and men don't really understand women, and that's kind of her attitude. She thinks like this idea that she threw out this quote, the big question When Harry Met Sally is, can men and women be friends without having sex? She's like, no, it's not. It's the fact that they kind of misunderstand the rules for friendship, and they want to be friends with each other, but they just don't really understand each other. Anybody else here big fans of When Harry Met Sally?
I just think that the reason why the film is so famous is because I had one scene in the cafe.
Well, true, because there is the plaque. There is the plaque.
You just say that, people,
yeah,
you know, that's what they remember about the movie. You know,
I have sat underneath that plaque.
You know, it's an excellent film himself, but that's the one thing that I think it just keeps on over the decades. People remember about it.
Well, I think it is an important film. It's an important moment in that film, because I mean, it's a woman kind of in the 80s embracing her sexuality. And when you kind of, that's maybe pretentious film criticky kind of way to look at it, but I mean, it is an important moment in that respect. Like, I mean, she is in complete control of her sexuality, and Billy Crystal is just a complete onlooker in that scene. I just think
any really, really good, great film will have iconic scenes. Yeah. So I think that's just a case of that. Yeah. In When Harry Met Sally.
But you got to, like, even like you were mentioning, like, she's not into you, isn't it? Yeah, you mentioned, yeah, like,
He's just not into you.
Even like, I mean, I have to admit, I always get it confused now with the Date movie, because it's just so kind of goes so, it just so riffs so heavily on it and 10 Things I Hate About. I always get it and 10 Things I Hate About You kind of confuddled, and it was until I watched it last week I was like, oh yeah, so that's that. But you've kind of got that, like, the ugly pretty girl type of thing that has kind of become, and we're talking about cliches earlier on. That's a walking cliche within the rom-com.
Oh yeah.
There's Mindy Kaling, the writer and comedy actress. I read her book a while ago, and she has a brilliant bit in it. It's just sort of like little essays, and one of them is about, you know, the romantic comedy, and some of it's things about it. And she says, you know, obviously we can't have an ugly actress in it. People would rather watch, you know, a whale rotting on screen for an hour and a half. So what can we do to make her flawed? She has to be a klutz, or she has to be, you know, something. But I think that's what's nice about the Nora Ephron ones, is that characters have their flaws, but it doesn't have to be, you know, it's just very human flaws. It's not some ridiculous gimmick.
Yeah, it's the normality of them.
They're normal characters.
It's a Woody Allen thing again. It's the normality of it. The conversations you would have yourself, the normal people, you know. And it's really simple. Like, it's really not a hard thing to do, but yet studios do put the wonderfully glamorous people up there first.
Because it is strange. Because I'm going to make this point later. Because you hear people like Judd Apatow making the point that like they're dudes, they can't write for women, and that's why kind of like especially their kind of comedies is very kind of frat house comedy, and it's kind of more about set pieces. But Nora Ephron can write. I just think it's strange that men seem to find it really hard to write for women, or some men do, not Woody Allen, but. Like some male writers find it hard to write for women, but Nora Ephron, I think, does it effortlessly. Yeah. I just think it's a strange. I don't know if any of you want to come in at that or anything like that, but I think it is a strange point that like Kevin Smith talks about this idea, because I want to move to the 90s and talk about like some of the rom-coms, particularly with Chase and Amy. He always kind of writers don't write what they know; they write the world how they see it and how they want to see it. And yes, kind of Chase and Amy is kind of like a bit like there is moments of disbelief that you kind of have to step away from, and it is like with rom-coms, it's got like in terms of like the sweeping statement, quite possibly one of the quintessential sweeping statement. But like the 90s, you do see that kind of shift in the kind of the rom-com. We start to see, I think, going from really good writing to set piece, and moving like Pretty Woman. You've got the ultimate like set piece ending where she saves him right back at the end of that when she comes to get him. But I mean, what about the 90s for you guys?
Well, Groundhog Day. That's where I'd like to start. Just it's pretty wonderful. I mean, maybe it's a little Bill Murray centric, but he's Bill Murray, so he can get away with that. And it is kind of similarly following on from what you were saying. It is kind of like it's all about the gimmick, and it's all about the like the structure of the film rather than the relationship. Maybe some of the other ones I like. Never Been Kissed. I really just find funny, and just Drew Barrymore I think's really great in that. I think. Again, it's unbalanced because you know a lot about her, and then the guy who's a teacher, like it's more like about, the selling point, the gimmick of the story. Like she has to go back to school. As Good as It Gets, I'd say that's no one. And it like I find it interesting because it's about older people who are like an older romance. And I think it is more balanced than like you remember, because you just think of like Jack Nicholson chewing up the scenery and saying lines, like
being nasty to a dog. If I remember,
you should ask that character about like writing for women. He thinks of a man and takes away reason and accountability. Yeah, that's how he writes women so well.
True. The 90s is a strange year. Like you do see like Pretty Woman. You've got the likes of Ghost, which are both early 1990s. Like you've got those. Like I mean, I'm a huge fan of Pretty Woman. Like you can't go wrong with it. You can't go wrong with Pretty Woman. But Ghost, which I watched the other day, I was kind of hesitant to put it into the rom-com genre. But I think you get Whoopi Goldberg, because Whoopi Goldberg, people forget, she kind of won the Oscar in that time. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think Demi Moore in Ghost as well is an example of one of the characters that I think just don't exist now. There was kind of a window in the 90s. You can kind of tell by the length of hair. There's in TV and film. Yeah. Women had short hair for a while. They were wearing, white t-shirts and jeans and.
I have no idea.
Are we having a parade coming? This is amazing.
That's actually something going on as part of Outburst. I don't know.
Okay, that's okay. I just completely wondered. I just wondered what was going on. I thought we were maybe getting overtaken.
Nice background music,
That's okay. That's okay. It was just a bit surreal. I just wondered ever so slightly.
Yeah. They're bursting in.
I thought it was going to be brassed off. It was going to be a reenactment of it. But one I'm going to throw out here, which is a bit of a curveball, which is one I love, is L.A. Story with Steve Martin. I love L.A. Story, and it's one of those films I remember when I was younger. I watched it, and it's just that idea of the talking billboard. And this guy staring up and getting all the answers from the billboard. I absolutely love it. And Steve Martin.
See, Steve Martin, now you're making me go back to the 80s ones. I'm
the Man with Two Brains.
I'm going like House Sitter and all that stuff, and those kind of Goldie Hawn 80s romantic comedies. I needed that 10 minutes ago where my brain
I would describe LA Story as Steve Martin doing Woody Allen.
trying to do Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Trying to. It's I have a huge soft spot for. I know
do
it's,
like it.
I know it's not a perfect film. I just love that scene, the visual aesthetics of that scene where he's kind of like because he's the weatherman.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, it helps him. The weather's
airplane is grounded. Isn't that?
It's grounded.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler. But it's well worth a watch if you've never seen
Sorry.
it. It's one of those films. It's one of those films you'll either really like or you really won't. Most people really don't like. Most people don't. It's just me. I tend to like films that a lot of people don't like. Neil, is there anything before we'll bring it up to date and wrap things up?
See, my brain does weird things where I can't remember if this is 90s or not, and I really hope it is. I think it is.
Well, 90s and noughties. We're
Okay.
wrapping them in
Well,
together.
then we're grand. The Wedding Singer.
Yeah.
Boom. We're there. We're done. Drops my walks off. Just great. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Back when Adam Sandler was at his heyday.
The actual funny Adam Sandler rom-com, the one that's out there.
I suppose rom-com, yeah.
I just love it. It just makes me laugh so much. It has the full romantic bit and the granny doing the Sugar Hill Gang, everything. I love it. And the Boy George fella. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm just going to start laughing about that now. I just love the way
you just want to do a commentary now for the Wedding Singer.
I remember watching that and thinking, wow, that guy doing Billy Idol's really good. But it's Billy Idol.
Yeah.
I didn't know until years later.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to throw out the audience. Like, I mean, anybody here, any other 90s and noughties rom-coms?
Can I just step back a wee bit to the 70s? See that image of Barbara Streisand? Comes up there, it's come up and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's a film with her and Robert Redford.
Yes, What's Up, Doc?
What's Up, Doc?
Yeah.
I thought that was just an amazing film.
It is a fantastic. It is pure screwball.
It's one of them.
Yeah. That's
Is
Peter.
it Funny Girl or What's Up, Doc?
What's Up, Doc?
Okay.
I think so.
I get those two confused.
It's a Waldorf. It's like part of it where she becomes like a political activist.
Mm-hmm. I think that's Peter Bogdanovich, isn't it?
Peter Bogdanovich
Yeah.
is What's Up, Doc.
What's Up, Doc? Yeah. Because I mean, that, you do get the all good screwball. I think with the rom-coms. Yeah. It's there's that, and there's Barefoot in the Park, which I absolutely love. Is another oldie. Like, I mean, it's Robert Redford and
Can't think who's
Jane
in it.
Fonda. She's on the clips here, and like that's another thing we haven't even talked about John Hughes, but I mean we will do specials on John Hughes. But Sarah, any other rom-coms, 90s, noughties? I know you were already starting. You were going to take this is kind of into your heyday.
No, I'm just I'm having the same thing. I'm struggling to sort of, I think because you think of things in terms of a certain era rather than years, but I think thinking about The Wedding Singer now is, I feel like that was sort of opening the doorway to a lot of the Judd Apatow school of rom-com we have now, where it doesn't really need to be a rom-com, but they need a story to build their comedy around, which is, I have no problem with, like The Wedding Singer. It's a funny film.
Yeah.
I think if it didn't have Drew Barrymore in that role, it could, it would just be an excuse for Adam Sandler to, just mess around for
Be
it.
Adam Sandler.
But I think.
Well, unfortunately, when they did Blended, like not so long ago, we didn't get the same results. It's a terrible rom-com.
50 First Dates is
50 First Dates,
yeah. Because there's 50 First Dates.
50 First Dates, I quite like it. It's got a bit of a heart in it. But
yeah, it's a similar thing.
They've tried, and that's the thing. You need a total package. You need a good script, because it's not enough to get that kind of, Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore does not work every time. There needs to be the right vehicle. There needs to be the right setups. There needs to be.
Well, what we'll do, we'll jump forward and we'll come to more recent stuff. And I mean, we'll talk and then we'll bring it to an end. We've got the rom-coms. We kind of got Judd Apatow has definitely kind of become the more modern person for doing like the rom-coms. You think of Knocked Up, This Is 40. More recently, Trainwreck. Now, can I ask, has anybody here seen Trainwreck? See, I'm not a fan of Trainwreck. I was really disappointed.
Whoa.
How far did you get?
You can't do that.
About not.
Did you get to LeBron James's big scene?
LeBron James
That
and John
was-
Cena are the funniest.
They were
things.
very, very funny scenes.
They
in
are
that.
the two funniest things, and they are the two people who should not be the funniest things in that film. The
I-
actual comedy people should be the funniest things.
I have to admit, I was really left disappointed by Trainwreck, particularly because I got down to the red carpet and got speaking to Judd Apatow, and I didn't get a chance to speak to Amy Schumer, but considering the talent that's there, I find Amy Schumer's stand-up, I find her own stuff really funny. I think I like how she turns like the quirks and cliches on their head. But this was a film, like, you didn't miss much. Basically, it tries to be... It's a film that wants... We're coming back to Woody Allen. It wants so hard to be a Woody Allen, Manhattan, Annie Hall for this era, for the new generation. And it just falls flat. It just doesn't work.
Likable. You can't relate to her. She wasn't likable. It's awful. And it wasn't funny.
But what I liked about the idea of Trainwreck is the fact that, kind of talking about, it flips the characters. You've got the male character is written as the female. Kind of the male character would be the female in the traditional rom-com, and the woman is... It swaps the genders. I like that aspect, but I just got left so cold. And then there's a bit like... I stayed it to the end. I was starting to like it, and then it just goes, you know what, we're talking about all these cliches and tropes, and we're not going to do them. We'll just do it in the end. And you're like, it was such a... It's one of the first films this year that has really left me disappointed. Yeah. I went in with high hopes.
And the Apatow stuff for me as well is always too long. Like that, they are always over the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
And you don't need that. You don't need a 2.5 hour rom-com.
Well, it's the same with the 5-year engagement. The 5-year
like it was actually
the 5-year engagement. I love all the talent that's in there. I love all, like, Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
And you have Emily Blunt and you have Jason Segel. And you've got the concept, and I like the way what it's doing, and then it just kind of it goes on. I think it's 2.5 hours, Mark. I think, but
never ends.
Like,
still going.
I would say this for a more recent rom-com that I've only seen recently, which I really liked, is Obvious Child, which is a really
haven't seen it. It's on my Netflix list.
It's on Netflix and Amazon. Other online streamers or screeners are available. But Obvious Child is a great wee film. I think it kind of wants to do what Trainwreck does, but it just does it in a much more accessible and enjoyable way.
I think what the two have in common, and I really enjoy both of them, but I think what they have is that it's not, two characters, they like each other, but they're kept apart, and they finally come together. They're together for the whole film, but both kind of going, oh, I'm not sure. Not sure if I'm that keen. Maybe you're a bit more keen. Is that a bad thing? Would I have to move? I'm not sure if I want to move. Things like that. Really, like you said, normal things. I think possibly the problem with Trainwreck is that it's very much an Amy Schumer vehicle, which is kind of, I feel like she's sort of throwing every bit of material into it because, a film that's not made by Judd Apatow, they had to throw his name on it in some way just so that people would go see it. I don't think he had much to do with it.
Well, he directed it, but it's the first film that Judd Apatow, he already writes and directs everything. It's the first film he's let somebody else write. And like, there's a man who said he can't write for women. He said he struggles to write for women because he's a dude. He's as I said earlier on, he's a dude. He's a guy. He doesn't understand women, and he throws up the opportunity. And you go, this will be something different. And it's just standard Judd Apatow stuff, and it just is left really underwhelming. And as I say, it wants so hard to be this generation's Manhattan, this generation's Annie Hall. They even reference scenes from Manhattan.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And you just go, don't do that.
Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. The last question, the two last questions I'm going to ask you, British rom-coms. We've kind of ran through them all. It's very British. We're very British in the love. Like, I mean, you've got 4 Weddings and a Funeral, About a Boy, which I love, and Love Actually. And of course, you have your lovely Love Actually story, Neil.
Yeah.
That we just kind of we always bring up anytime we bring this up.
Big fan of Love Actually, but we went to see Love Actually in Paris. Think of the romance of that. That's City of Culture, and we went to the cinema. But we went to see Love Actually, and everybody's seen Love Actually. Yeah, I'm gonna make that assumption. So at the heartbreak moment with Emma Thompson in Love Actually, the French cinema audience burst into laughter when she opens the thing at Christmas, and the two of us are sitting in the cinema just looking at each other, going, "What has just happened here?" Because all that kind of. It is all built to that point, and she opens this package and she thinks it's something it's not, and she breaks down, and everybody's killing themselves around us, and we're thinking, this is the most mental cinema experience I've ever had.
Nah, but you see, the French, they're good for affairs and stuff like that. That's old hat to them. It'd be shocked that they weren't having a rom. Not that I would stereotype at all. Before we get to the last question, British rom-coms. Anything else you want to really give a shout out to?
About Time, which I watched as part of my homework. I watched on Netflix.
Homework,
which really, it has a rom-com element to it, but the bigger story going on is more about the character's relationship with his dad.
Yeah, it makes you want to phone your dad.
It makes you want to phone your dad at the end of it, and it's a lovely film. I was just kind of sitting there. It's very dusty in our living room that night. I was like, wiping
Bit
the
like me,
tears away.
bit like me and Inside
Bit
Out.
like you and Inside Out, yeah. But About Time again, Richard Curtis, and it's just lovely.
Sarah?
Notting Hill. Notting Hill.
Yeah.
An old favourite.
Yeah. What do you love about Notting Hill?
That's just, it's a classic romantic comedy, and to be set in London, the whole scenery about it, and then the fact that a normal sort of guy can get married to a big world Hollywood actress and all that inside of the language. It's just a lovely film, just make it enjoy,
Live the dream. Live the dream. Sarah?
No, it's, part of my homework was I think.
Oh, I'm coming across a really grumpy schoolmaster
in a
here.
nice way.
Yeah.
It was
No,
enjoyable.
I watched The Rewrite, which is not a British rom-com, but it's Hugh Grant. It was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I realised watching that, I feel like Hugh Grant's bumbling, cheerful Englishman to arrogant, jaded character. I feel like the ratio of his films has shifted that way now.
I think it was a conscious thing.
I feel like we can't say officially now that that's Hugh Grant's character. I think more of the Bridget Jones character is him now.
Yeah,
But I think we need a new Hugh Grant basically in
we
British
do.
films. We
Like
don't-
I
we
think
don't have
Danny
that.
Dyer.
About a Boy, I think you saw him definitely trying to make that shift
Mm.
to be kind of like he tried to bridge the two, and I think you've seen him more. I would definitely agree with you, but I think that's more Hugh Grant. I think he's playing more the character more that it's him than because after 4 weddings and a funeral, is it 9.5 weeks or something like that? The 9.5 months.
No.
9.5 months, a really
9 months.
terrible
There's
romantic.
9 months
9
and then
months.
there's 2 weeks notice. That's the one.
Yeah.
9.5
It's
weeks.
not
is a
9.5
completely-
weeks.
9.5 weeks is a completely
Yeah.
different film.
Yeah.
Yes. What we're going to do then? I'll never ask you, Richard.
Well, I was just going to say Fever Pitch
Mhm.
because it's got football in it.
Can't beat a bit of food. Right. I'm going to ask, and I'll ask the audience, and that is us. That wrapped up, then we're going to screen the film. For your definitive rom-com, who is your kings and queens? Who are the paupers of the rom-com? And if you had to pick on your desert island, your one rom-com to take with you, what would it be? I'll start with you, Neil.
Oh no, don't start with me.
Whoa.
One that I have to take with me.
Yeah.
A recent one that I love and I keep going back to him, I haven't mentioned it, is Crazy Stupid Love with Steve Carell, Julianne Moore, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, and that's a great rewatch. I would watch that again and again and again.
Okay.
Who would I have in my rom-com as my we're talking 2 main leads?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I've got Ryan Gosling, I think.
Okay.
Probably, maybe now. And Emma Stone. Emma Stone does some really good stuff.
Okay.
Like say Easy A and stuff like that. Really relatable girl next door type
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
What about you?
I might just go back to Cusack for this. John Cusack and Drew Barrymore, have they ever been in a film together?
I'm not.
I think that could work. In a time machine.
Probably through the
like-
degrees of Kevin Bacon,
Yeah.
they have been in
Yeah.
some way.
And like if the island was New Zealand, I would take Eagle versus Shark,
Okay.
which is a great more recent rom-com, or maybe
It doesn't have to be New Zealand.
maybe
It can
just
be- it
say
doesn't have to be
anything.
New Zealand. You can take it anywhere.
Yeah.
It's Isle of Man.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you.
Don't know
glamorous-
any films.
We don't have the
set in
budget.
the
We don't
Isle
have
of
the
Man.
budget for glamorous,
Yeah.
glamorous locations. What about you, sir?
I think I'm trying to think of what did you call them? Paupers of the rom-com.
Yeah, who's like? I always think of like Katherine Heigl would be the one.
You see, I feel like Katherine Heigl. She's looking at. She's only actually done I think 2 or 3, but she seems to
Yeah.
be sort of our the new. She does rom-coms figure.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably Sarah Jessica Parker
Okay.
is. I feel like because of Sex and the City, she was picked as someone as like, oh, obviously this is what women are aspiring to now. Let's put her in rom-coms, and she's just horrendous. I
Jennifer
think.
Aniston and
Yeah.
some of them.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock.
I think if we're choosing sort of a prom king and queen, I would say probably young Tom Hanks and Emma Stone. Like you said, Crazy Stupid Love kind of went under the radar a little bit. I think it did okay, but it was really, as far as sort of an ensemble rom-com goes, I think that's one of the best ones. That's
And
been
has
for
a really
long
good
time.
twist in there.
Really good.
I personally didn't see coming.
Which someone told me about beforehand, and I still didn't see it coming. I was
Oh.
they sort of warned me that there was one, and it's just really, really good.
I think for me, I'd have to go use my Interstellar time machine. I'd get Cary Grant at his heyday, in his prime, and I'd put him up against inner prime Meg Ryan. I think, I think that would work. But and for me, like it's a no-brainer for me. The definitive rom-com is When Harry Met Sally. It's cinematic chicken soup to me. It's one I always go back to, and it cheers me up whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood. No matter what, it always puts a smile on my face. Last thing, I'll open out to you guys. Any rom-coms we haven't mentioned? Any rom-coms that you feel definitive? Along Came Polly. That is Jennifer Aniston and Ben Stiller. Because funny, I rewatched today the
because it's kind of reversing the roles again. You're saying the serious guy and the funny guy, and then it's the serious guy and the funny guy, quirky guy, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and funny, I rewatched The Heartbreak Kid today as well. Ben Stiller, another Ben Stiller one, which I think is a remake of a French film as well, and it's not very good. Ben Stiller is another pauper, I think, of the rom-com. Stick to Zoolander and things like that. Any other one else just before we wrap? I'd written down The Quiet Man. I think I have it in one of these for my rom-coms. Yeah.
Not like the sort of quintessential rom-com, but you can see the romance and the comedy in behind it all.
There's rom-com elements.
You know?
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody? Well,
Definitely
Nice.
comedy.
Unintentional.
Yeah.
it is a strange one. Like, I mean, you could have, like, there's a lot of discussions. Like, we've dabbled with it before with the feminist issues that you see with Dirty Dancing. We're not going to start going down that whole segue now, but I mean, it's important in that way because again, it's that like changing of the rules. I think within like the fact that Patrick's.
You have the sister and stuff in it, and the dancing and all the silly parts.
Yeah.
That you kind of.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it is the fact that when you think of Dirty Dancing, Patrick, like, and I can say this as a red-blooded male, like, Patrick Swayze is the sex object in that film. Like, it's not the female that is who's traditionally would be the sex object. It's the camera leers at Patrick Swayze in that film.
I think that's a thing we haven't mentioned. Sorry, it's a bit late now, but the fact that in a film, even still, that's sort of made for women, aimed at women, men might be dragged along to it. It's rare, even in a film that's aimed at women, to have the man sort of objectified so much in it. We still have, like, it'll be the woman who's that kind of big reveal or whatever, and you think
Something for the dads.
yeah, but you know what I mean, in
That type
terms
of
of
thing.
audience and
Something
knowing
for
what they
Neil.
want, you would think there'd be a lot more of Forgetting Sarah Marshall moments.
Yeah.
Of
I can't think of that
full
many where you
frontal.
have. I can't think of that many where you have the male act.
You always have to make Matthew McConaughey take his shirt off.
Yeah.
And Ryan Gosling, he took his shirt off in Crazy Stupid Love.
How many times has he made you watch Crazy Stupid Love?
You see, it works both ways. Crazy Stupid Love.
It works both ways. It's got a really nice mix for both, and so does like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I think
Okay.
it's enjoyable for both ends.
Okay,
Pretty
well,
crazy.
I think we will wrap up, and I think what we
Yeah.
will do next week, we're going to have not in front of a live audience, but we'll have an actual Annie Hall podcast discussion, just talking about the film itself. So, thank you very much, Neil. Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been We Need to Talk About Movies. Thanks for listening. For more information, visit banterflix.com. See you next time.